Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Leadership Live. We do these every other Friday, and I'm here today, as always, with Chris Pinkowski. And how you doing today, Chris?
Doing great, JJ. It's Friday. Looking forward to being productive this weekend, but I'm ready to get into today's topic. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, resilience.
Yes.
I love it. So yeah, as I said, today's topic is resilience. Before we go into that, and hope you don't mind, Chris, but I want to put a plug in. So I do have a leadership cohort coming up here in starting on the 4th of June. And if you're interested in that and what that training looks like, team building, all the crap that we talk about on Leadership Live, reach out to me. I'll get you set up. Just going to be some group learning with a bunch of other curious individuals, just like all the listeners. But
Awesome.
Otherwise, resilience. What does resilience mean? To me, it's just the ability to bounce back from adversity.
Pretty much.
What do you think?
That sums it up. It's your ability to recover, oftentimes recover quickly when something negative is happening so that you're able to get back on the right track and get back towards the goals that you have set out for yourself.
Goals.
It's
Yes. Always keep your eye on the prize. Keep the end in mind. And anytime you're developing any goal, I will say this: setting up a plan doesn't mean it's ever going to go that way. And from a resiliency standpoint, the one thing that you have to expect is that something is going to fail.
That's right.
Murphy is always going to come in and he's going to screw something up for you. And where resiliency comes in is how are you going to react to that thing? So it's adaptability, but adaptability is rooted in resiliency. Hey, Michael, thank you for coming in. What do you have to say already here? Resiliency is the ability to have setbacks happen and continue on in the possible face of adversity. Once again,
Yes.
great addition to the conversation. Much appreciated.
That is absolutely true. I think that it's something I'm gonna go into an area that I may get my hand slapped a little bit, but I think that resilience is something that's lacking in the workforce today. I think that people have had it so easy that when setbacks happen, they're looking for a safe space to go to as opposed to creating their own safe space within themselves in order to get through it. You can't, just like you just mentioned, JJ, the way that you set out your plans are rarely going to happen the way that you have laid them out, the way that you forecast it. And it's your ability to be resilient when those setbacks happen, right? When that roadblock happens, you can't just curl up in a ball and hope that the roadblock goes away. You have to figure out a way over it, around it, through it. And that comes from being resilient. It comes from getting through tough times. Like, I will often say to people when they talk to me about, I'm having a hard time with this, I will say, deliberately put yourself in hard situations so that you can build that resiliency in order to keep going. Like, look for hard things that you can push through and gain some of those self victories. And that's going to help you to be more resilient going forward.
I agree. And Michael's saying something directly to your point. So adversity, I believe, if I translate this correctly, because it was probably your phone that you were using, it always thinks it's smarter than you. But you said adversity is the key, because if that didn't exist, you wouldn't need resilience. I'm the type of person, I'll do something, fall on my face and do it again. Well, okay, let's not be that person that puts his hand on the hot stove and then does it again. But, learning from that and doing it a different way, as I think what you're talking about, and that is being adaptable, which is probably the most key thing in resiliency. And you were talking about generational stuff, Chris. The first thing that came to my mind is that and this happens with my kids, I'm not going to say which one. Well, it's both, but damn it. No, but what happens is when something doesn't go their way, the very first thing they do is they retreat to this.
Yes.
Or they retreat to the computer.
Yep.
And either way, they're retreating to those stupid shorts, the YouTube shorts or Facebook shorts, which is fine for adults. I mean, that's how they find me because I have a lot of those reels and stuff up there. But don't retreat there and stay there. Use it to get yourself back in a mindset to where, okay, I'm calm. And then immediately when you know that you're calm, don't stay stuck in the zombie land of technology. Figure out what you're going to do to bounce back from that. What are you going to do now that your setback has happened, or that you got your wrist slapped, or whatever the case may be? What are you going to do now to take action to move toward the goal? And the plan is not the goal. The goal is what the end state is, and the end state is what you plan to achieve.
That's right.
And if you don't bounce back and keep moving, then you're going to lose sight of that. And who was that, Chris? Denzel Washington, that said, goal is nothing more than a dream if you don't take action on it.
Yes, that's so true. You have to take action, and you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to take the bumps, the bruises, the scrapes in order to achieve something meaningful. And kind of back to Michael's point a little bit, there are times that you fail forward, right? You do something, you fall on your face, you learn from it, and all right, how do I get around this? How do I do it differently? But then there are other times where it's a matter of like practice makes perfect, right? If you want to be an awesome, free throw shooter at basketball, you're really just stepping up to the line and you're tossing that ball into the hoop over and over again. And it just takes practice, repetition, and not letting yourself get frustrated when it doesn't go in the basket. So yes, there are times to learn and there are times to persist. They're both examples of resilience. I think back, like when I was young, I was into BMX bikes and I was into skateboarding. And I used to like to do crazy tricks. I tried backflipping BMX bikes. And you know what? There wasn't a whole lot of learning happening, as opposed just I've got to get more rotation going this way. I've got to be faster hitting the ramp. But I just kept trying, busting my ass and trying again until I could backflip the bike. And that's part of being resilient. It's try, because your first time out, you're not going to be perfect. Your 10th time out, you're not going to be perfect. But it's that mindset of I just have to keep practicing in order to reach that level.
Yeah. And that takes a lot of takes a lot of mental strength to be able to do that. What comes to mind? Oh, let me turn this off here. I like Michael's comment, but I'm going to get rid of it. So, it's important to be able to do that because the people don't have that strength. And what comes to mind is actually the warrior ethos that I learned when I was in the U.S. Army. And I always keep these in the forefront of my mind. And those warrior ethos are, I will always place the mission first. That's the goal. I will never accept defeat. Well, that means you want to win.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what it takes. I will never quit. Well, I think that speaks for itself. And I will never leave a fallen comrade. So in other words, from a leadership standpoint, if you're a member of a team, not only are you not willing to quit, you're always going to keep the end in mind, and you're going to make sure you're bringing everybody else with you. Yeah. And if you're doing all of that, then you're not just building resiliency in yourself, but you're building a resilient team.
That's an awesome point. So there's one thing about resilience in yourself, right? And you can demonstrate that as a leader. We always talk about lead by example, but I would love to talk about how, as leaders, do you help people to build that resiliency? Because I think that that's something that people are frustrated with. I hear this from people all the time that, I've got a soft group of people that are working in my organization that I'm trying to lead, and I keep hitting my head against the wall because I'm resilient. They're not. How do I build that up in them?
Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just one approach. Is I think that you, just like anything else, you have conversations around the things that are going on that you notice.
Yeah,
And by the way, you need to develop that. The first part of that is developing that human connection with everybody on your team. You need to have some sort of a relationship with everybody that's on your team. And then, investing in them by saying, "Hey, I noticed this. Let's come together and figure this out." And let's make sure we're not giving up on things, that we're moving forward on things. And if you have problems with that, grab a buddy, come talk to me, go. I mean, if it's just in the moment and there's another manager around, grab somebody to make sure that you are getting the help you need to move forward and accomplish your goal. And if you drive that home over and over and over again, it's almost like making sure people understand where to get mental health. If they understand the ideas behind becoming resilient, then eventually they're going to get that help and they're going to become more resilient themselves. And with the mental health thing, I talk about that a lot on my other podcasts. If somebody knows where to get help and they know what the warning signs are to look for within themselves, and they will receive treatment. So, I mean, it's just like a revolving door. It works for everything. Awareness and education figures almost every problem out.
you're right. And it's also, I agree with everything that you just said, right? You have to have that human connection. You've got to have reinforcing conversations. You've got to, I don't know, for lack of a better word, give those pats on the back, right? Hey, let's recognize when we're doing well. Let's be constructive about things that we could do better. Keep a positive
Yep.
attitude when you're talking to your people about overcoming these obstacles. Uh, but there are times, and it depends on the industry and the job and things like that. There are times that you need to cut mentally weak people loose from your team. Not everyone is cut out for the same team, and if who you're leading needs to be super resilient and people don't have that in them, it's not easy to fire people. It really isn't. But for the sake of the entire team, not everyone fits. And you need to be resilient enough to recognize that and take those steps once you've exhausted all of your other corrective actions.
Yes. And what, by the way, everybody who's listening, what Chris is referring to when he talks about those other actions is giving them opportunities to grow by having conversations around these things, making a plan for improvement with the person that's having those problems, taking all of those measures to make sure that you are helping them to get to where you want them to be and where they need to be able to accomplish the mission. But not everybody can get that way. And
No.
and I like Michael's approach that he's taken here, and it's really, really good. I love including you in my shows, Michael. This is great. Keep up the good work, my friend. I think when you have a team, you're resilient, and show them your heart. It becomes infectious and makes you more resilient. That makes the whole team more resilient. And what you're talking about is inspiring your team. And
Yeah.
you don't inspire your team by being a dud at the top. You inspire them by leading by example. And so if you're not a resilient person, if you're meek, if you're shy and you buckle under the pressure, your team will think it's okay to do that. And so when it comes time to step up to the plate, you're going to have those people that always do, but then those people that struggle with that and maybe they're more likely to fall short, they're going to think that it's okay to do that because they see you do that.
Mhm.
Don't be the one. Be the one that rises to the occasion instead of falls below the standard.
Yeah, and excuse me. You know, with putting your heart into it, that that also leads to, being able to read the room. It has that component of emotional intelligence that we've talked about, we've covered on live in the past. Um, and being able to control your own speed, right? Throttle how fast you're going, how slow you're going, how you're bringing other people along, because you may be ultra resilient, but you you might need to take your foot off the gas sometimes in order to bring other folks um, up with you. So it's there are so many different components that come into resilience and how you go about it.
There's another side to that, right? And it's not just doing it for your people, but sometimes, it's taking the next steps to have conversations that are very, very difficult. We've done an entire talk on this,
Mhm.
but there are times, and the only reason I'm thinking of it is because somebody put a post on it earlier this morning, and it's in the top of my mind. But difficult conversations or approaching a situation that is uncomfortable. I won't even call it a difficult conversation. Approaching a situation that's uncomfortable. Do you know how many people are out there that will they'll acknowledge that situation exists,
Yeah.
but then they'll be like, oh man, I'm just going to have to let this work itself out. Well, you need to be a resilient person in that situation, because whether you realize it or not, that's a situation that you just gave up on.
Mhm.
Instead of falling back, move forward in that foxhole and attack that conversation with some strategy.
Yep.
Understand the importance of it, because it wouldn't if it didn't come to the top of your mind initially, then it wouldn't have been important. So the fact that it sat there for a second and lingered with you means you have to address it, even if it's only for a couple of seconds. That's another part of resiliency. Leaders absolutely have to have the good conversations, the bad conversations, and even the ugly conversations. And I
Yeah.
know that was a Clint Eastwood reference from a movie, but it doesn't. I love doing that stuff. But the good, bad, and the ugly, because if you don't, then what type of leader are you?
Yeah. You know, it really, if you're not having those conversations, they fester and they grow in a negative way. Um, and it also leads to some people address things at a surface level, but that's just one tiny step above sweeping it under the rug. You need to be strong enough to dig in and get to the root cause of the issues, right? You can't just say, okay, this is what seems to be going on. We're going to make this slight corrective measure without understanding what's leading that problem. And if you're not resilient, if you're not curious, then you're not going to get to that root cause and wipe that problem out, like, at the base. You're only covering it up and it's going to come back, and most times it's going to come back even bigger, and it's going to bite you right in the rear end.
So it's funny because we're having this conversation and you and I are on the same sheet of music, but Michael's on the same sheet of music too. He said sweeping problems under the rug can become a landmine that blows you and your business to pieces. By the way, I
Absolutely.
love that analogy. I like to blow things up. But um, I think all of us dumb rednecks do at one point or another, but that's beside the point. But you're absolutely right. If you don't address something, it's almost like a problem within yourself. There's also emotional resilience, right? Which is part of EQ.
Mhm.
And if you don't address those problems, I'm going to take that away from the business and away from other people. if you don't address your own, if you don't take care of your own house, I'm not talking about the one that you live with your wife, your kids, your dogs, and your goldfish. I'm talking about the one that's in here, your heart and your mind. If you don't address the stuff that's going on with yourself, then exactly the same thing will happen.
Yeah.
You can only push things down for so long before that volcano explodes. And that can come out on your team, that can come out on your wife or kids, or I wouldn't say wife or kids, your spouse. How about that?
Yeah.
But I mean, when that happens, that's also another form of resilience, knowing when to take action on something. And that could be to go and get your mental tune up done and go talk to a therapist.
Yeah. It's being resilient, right? Sometimes you do just have to power through, but you also need that release. So it's, hey, I'm just going to go harder in the gym today because I pushed through. It was such a pain in the butt. It needed to get done, because that's the other thing. Sometimes resilience comes in just doing something that you don't want to do, but getting it done anyway because you've made a commitment, because you've got a deadline to reach. There's nothing to necessarily learn from it. It's just you getting out of your head and saying, shit, I didn't want to do the yard work today, but I told my wife that I was going to do it. Spring is here. Our yard looks like crap. And I'm going to spend this Saturday doing yard work, which it's an example of me last weekend. I didn't want to do it, but I got all the mulch beds done and all the spring flowers and all that good stuff. So a lot of times it's not that you have to learn from it. It's not that you have to fail from it. It's just that you've made a commitment to get something done, and you just need to push through and finish it. If you get frustrated during it, which I didn't get frustrated last week doing the yard work. I like getting my hands dirty. But if you're really uncomfortable and you get it done, then go find your release after you've completed it and get that energy out in a healthy way. Go lift some weights, go do some jujitsu, go for a walk. Just get that release valve opened up so that you're able to rock and roll on to the next thing.
But there are so many lessons there, Chris, that you're teaching yourself along the way.
Yeah.
Mental resilience, ownership,
Mm-hmm.
accountability, because by the way, you told your wife you were going to do it. And that doesn't even have anything to do with work. You don't want the backlash of not doing something you told your wife you were going to do. That's just
right.
a bad situation altogether. There's one person in the house that can make it happy or make it hard. I'm just going to say it that way.
True words.
But, addressing those issues, having the wherewithal here to do what's supposed to be done, even though you don't necessarily want to do it, that's a lesson within itself. A lot of people can't do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people just cannot get up in the morning and exercise, which sometimes that's me. Sometimes people can't take action on that first thing on their to-do list every day, even at work. And they may be sucking eggs at their job, but they don't do it unless somebody walks up to them and says, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Do it. Right. They don't have that accountability to take action on their own. They have to have somebody get them started. Yep. So there are so many lessons there. So if you're one of those people that does those things on a regular basis, you're already like 60% ahead of probably 30% of the population.
Yep. I don't know how to do that math, but it sounds right to me.
I don't know if it's there. By the way, there are absolutely no statistics that I've looked at to back up anything that I'm saying right now. This is just my opinion.
The other side of resilience and mental toughness, I think that they go hand in hand. You can swap those two words, and they pretty much mean the same.
Yes.
But it's also the way that you process what's being said to you, right? The shit that's rolling downhill in your direction. So that's another part of resilience, is not letting things get under your skin, not taking things personally when it doesn't need to be taken personally, knowing the difference. Um, I will often joke with people and say, my skin is so thick, alligators are jealous. So, whatever. I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up on the sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. So you can throw every word in the dictionary at me, and I'm like Teflon. Not everyone is like that. Not every Gen Xer is like that.
Nope.
Most of us are, though. It's just how we were
Yeah, I
raised.
mean, you're talking about a generation that we were told that you're not allowed in the house.
Right. Right. Go
We were
drink
doing
from the
so much.
hose. We don't want to see you till it's dark.
That's right. Yeah, drink from the fire hose. You're not coming inside.
That's right. But, I see that too. Like, we live in this world where everyone is so easily offended,
Yeah.
and that is absolutely a result of lack of resilience. If you get offended by everything going on around you, then good luck having a successful, healthy, happy life. You're constantly going to be irritated because you're upset by what's going on. I just used the word a second ago.
Easily offended.
You're offended, right?
Yeah.
Stop letting things offend you, and that's a skill that you need to develop, right? It's not something that just comes naturally. It can be beat into you like it was for Gen X, or you can learn it for some of these newer generations. But
Literally beaten into you. Yeah.
not taking things so personally and not getting offended can go so far in life.
Yes. Well, and there's another layer to that, right? So, I mean, there has been, even back when Gen Xers were young, I mean, the suicide rate has slowly gotten more and more and more, but that has bred conversations all the time about it's okay to express your feelings and stuff like that. And by the way, it absolutely is. However, when you are letting your feelings get the better of you
Mhm.
and you're not taking steps to develop the mental strength, the resilience, the EQ, the all those things, and you're just blaming your problems on your emotions and your hormones and all of this other crap that people want to blame their problems on. By the way, it's not crap. I'm sorry. A psychologist is going to smack my post in the face. I guarantee it. But I'm just saying you got to do something about it. If you don't do something about it, it's going to get worse and then it will be a real founded problem. But just sitting around and staring at your computer in a dark room all the time or your phone in a dark room all the time is going to develop depression. You're
Yeah.
isolating yourself, people.
Yeah.
These phones are dangerous. Don't do it. Get out and get some fresh air. We were born I'm a religious person, so we came from the dirt. We should be out in the dirt. Go outside and do something.
Yeah. Uh, you know, Man, now I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
I
good.
get
You're good.
long-winded sometimes. I am very passionate about that too, by the way, because I'm like I'm 42 and I'm right at the like tipping point between millennial and Gen X, and I lived it too. And it's just like, why don't these people understand that? Yeah, it's okay to have emotions, but you
Yes.
got to push past it sometimes for the good of everybody around you and yourself.
That's what I was gonna say, and I know we're coming up on time, so I'll make it quick. Um, we have learned that it is it is good to talk about your feelings. It is good to talk about your emotions, because I've had these conversations with my kids, and they're like, did you ever talk to mom and pop about how you felt?" And I was like, "No." Like, just straight out no.
I
But
didn't want my parents to know anything about me.
right. But it is healthy, right? It
Yes.
is healthy to have those conversations so that you're not wrestling with it inside of your own head, right?
Yes.
So we have learned that that's healthy, and I'm on board with that. Um, I blame a lot of this on participation trophies. participation trophies, just because you showed up and you get a prize, not everyone deserves a prize. I think that has led to this lack of resilience because there's no need to put in the effort. You fail, you get beat up, and you still get a prize. That's BS, in my opinion.
Correct.
But, so that there's balance, right? There's good and bad. Let's talk about our feelings. That's awesome. Let's not let our feelings rule our lives. And let's figure out how to moderate that so that we can be resilient and tough and push past difficult situations.
Yep. And by the way, Michael, thank you for all your comments, man.
Yeah.
You're right. It's important to have balance with your emotions. It's important to understand that, you can't lean on your masculinity or your femininity. I can't even say that word, but you know what I'm saying. Femininity is that anyway.
That's
But
correct.
just making sure that you have support mechanisms, people around you that you can talk about things with. Don't lean too deeply into those emotions. Understand that they can trap you. Sometimes you just need to take action and deal with the emotions when you're done.
Yeah.
And it, that may sound harsh, but if you've ever been in the situation where you just broke down in tears and didn't get the job done, then you'll know exactly what I mean. But I mean, we've all done it probably at least once. But we're over 30 minutes. That doesn't mean, by the way, that you're a bad person. You just have some things to work on.
Yeah. We all have things to work on.
Yes.
None of us are perfect.
No. And to close it out, resilience is just taking whatever adversity comes your way and just figuring out how to get past it, whether it's a mental thing or a physical thing. It doesn't really matter. You do it for the sake of you and your family, and if you're in a leadership position at work, you do it for the sake of your team. And if you don't know how to do that, or you're not willing to do that, there are strategies out there. I mean, you can do EQ training, you can do all kinds of stuff, but leadership training is one of those things, and we provide those as a service. Both Chris and I, what we do, and so please reach out to us if that's something that you need to work on, or if you're interested in it. But since we're at 32 and a half minutes, I'm going to go ahead and say that if you like this video, or if anything resonates with you, please like it, subscribe to the channel that you see this on if it's on YouTube. Make sure that you share it with your audience if you think they need to hear it or see it. I would appreciate that. I think Chris would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, keep the conversation going. So put a comment below, say what you want to say about it, and see what somebody else replies with. Thank you again, Michael, for showing up. Thank you, Chris, for doing this episode with me today. I think it was a good one. And we will see you all in 2 weeks.
That's right. In the meantime, stay hard.
Stay hard. Yeah. Right. Bye, everybody.
See ya.